Victor. I'm here with a new weekly painting, and this time I want to do something special. This is the 100th weekly painting. So this is number 100, and I thought that for this number I want to use to make something different. It's going to be something more theoretical and less practical that I used to do. So this time I'm going to explain where I use each technique and what is the criteria I use to use each technique. And I hope this is helping you to understand how I work. This is, of course, everyone can adapt the techniques to their needs, but this is how I use the different techniques, and this means dry brush, washes, edge highlighting, blending, when I use one or the other, depending on the finishing that I wanted. Okay, and let's start with the technique that is the most popular. For me is the dry brush. Dry brush is the technique that everybody starts working with, and today, for me, the places I use the most is when I have a lot of texture or when I'm looking for some chalkiness with some rough finishing. Let's put an example here. This is my realm gate, and to do the stone work, I think to simulate a stone, the best is to use dry brush for me. I think it gives the real finish, the rough finishing. If you look here, the stairs, so it gives the right rough finishing, the thing that you want to be real chalky, dirt, a combination of colors. And I think this is the way for me to the dry brush is where it excels. I use that, and the other places where you want to use dry brush is when you have highly textured surfaces. And by that I mean, for example, feathers. So if you look here, these feathers, these wings are done with black and then dry brushes of grey, going heavier with the light grays at the extreme. Okay, this is just dry brush. Very thin, soft dry brush. You have to be careful. Dry brush can be used to make some very nice finishing, and maybe at the end you always want to combine all the techniques. You don't use only one technique alone. You can do just at the end a glaze to smoothen the transitions even and to remove a part of the chalkiness. This one where I use some of the techniques. The other technique that I use a lot, and maybe it's the technique that I use the most, is washes. Normally, most of the people will do the hair also with dry brush. I prefer to use washes, and this is what's done with a wash of a darker color. I like to use washes when I have something very texturized on metal, like this shoulder pad here. This is metal with a wash of nun oil, and in that case I use the gloss because I was experimenting. So I use washes to have the good definition of the wings on the Crossius Arcanum. So wash is the thing that I use the most to give the base for me. So for me the base of a painting job is the base color plus a wash. The same to do the skin. If you look also this hair, and I think I just broke this guy. Also this hair, I started with a wash, the hair of this guy. Okay, so wash is the technique that I use the most. I use it in very different ways, in very different techniques. So for me, wash is the technique that, for me, the base of a painting is the painting plus the wash. Where I don't use wash, when I want a clean white, I don't think that is a good wash for me. Maybe you have to tweak, but I normally on whites I don't use washes, and on black you cannot use washes unless you start with a dark gray and then you do the wash with nun oil. Okay. On the armor plates here, I did not do. You also do washes here, sorry, on the armor plates, and the main reason is to have a good differentiation between the different armor plates. After a wash, you always need to do what I say, cleaning. And when I say cleaning, means that you go with the base color and you remove the excess of wash that you have on the miniature. Okay, for example, when you're painting this armor plate, you have played the wash, and then with the red, you give a good definition of all the, of all the armor plates. You see, I have another example here. The hair was wash as well, and the armor plate was wash and clean. Okay, so these are examples. But there is other cases where I use other techniques apart of washing. Uh, and then there are another, so once you start, you have the wash, then there are two techniques for me to do the highlights. Okay, one is edge highlighting, as I did here on the armor. It's quite sharp, and the finishing, it's very popular in the Space Marines. So for example here on this how it's called, Grey Knight. Okay, it's gray base and then edge highlighting, very sharp. The finishing, it works very well when you have big armors, when you have this type of armor plates, big armor plates. Here I did not use wash, I just use edge highlighting to do the highlights on this guy. Where I use also edge highlighting, and it's a surface where I will never, if you want a clean finishing on an armor, for example on this guy, if you want a clean finishing, you want this, I think the way to go is with edge highlight. I will never recommend to do dry brush when you have so many flat surfaces. But for me the extreme is when you go to vehicles. Okay, this is one of the lemon roses that I want. This is a demolition of the paint for my Renegade. I know that is on black, and black is also a difficult color, but if you look this is completely edge highlight, and this is the way for me, was the way for me to have a very nice finishing, and also to look good and pinpoint all the different details. So let me take this out, I don't want it falling off. I want to show the side. On the red on top I did a wash. Okay, if you see, sorry I was off camera. So if you see here the red, there was a wash. This is why it's darker on the recesses, because this is what when you do the wash. So the wash can be applied in two ways as well. The wash can be applied washing all over the place, or you can wash just applying the wash where you want it. So in that case, for example, you only apply the wash in the recess. It's more time consuming, but it's giving a much cleaner finishing. Okay, so remember that washes can be applied in two ways. You can do a general wash, for example, when you do hair. I wash all the hair, and this is what, okay, in that case. But when you do some detail work and you want to keep clean, you just wash around here. Another example. You paint the gold here, okay, and you want to have a sharp change between the gold and the white. What you do is with a wash you can go next to the gold, and then you have this sharp finishing. But you don't want to go all over the white, because then the white will look too dirt. Okay, this is one of the techniques, edge highlighting, and the last one is, I will say, is a color blending, or just highlighting with smooth transitions, I will say. So this was done, for example, here on the skin. What you do is there is two ways to do it, or you play with like glazes, or painting with a paint that is very transparent and you start adding layers, or you can, if you need to do color transitions, or you want to do some change of colors, you start mixing the colors on the miniature. Let me show you one example here. This is again the Mistweaver. So the way for me to transition, so this was just adding color and adding to the base. So, and this way I can control where I want to add purple, where I want to add blue. Okay, and I did the same on the hair. So this is really time consuming, but you go hair by hair, highlighting, and then you have a very smooth finishing. Okay, color blending is a technique that I showed recently in my last tutorial, and here we see, if you go to the previous one, you will see that I use the color blending is the last technique you can use to highlight. I used to highlight the rest of the skin, so I go with successive layers, going lighter and lighter, but you also do that to do the change of colors, this transition, for example, from here to here, from this purplish color to the skin color. So for me the trick is choose a technique that will give you the best result. As you can see here, the base is done with Drybrush. Okay, I do washes all over the place. When it's needed here on the white, I did not do washes. It's all by building up the color, I will say blending or highlighting the color. The skin have a wash, but then you clean the wash and then you do the highlights. And on color transitions you do wet blending. These are the main techniques that I use all over the place. And for me the trick is, one of the most important things is to understand when you want to use each technique. Not an example, for example, that washes work is helping a lot. When you want to do this type of things, if the letters are in darker color, you paint everything on the screen and then you do a wash. And after the wash, you go with the cream color and you clean the wash. You make sure that you have a sharp finishing. It's making your life much easier. Of course, this does not work when the color inside is lighter, and then you have to apply the color manually. But these are the thing I wanted to talk about. How, when I use each technique, what is driving me to use each technique. Just to repeat, when we have a heavy texturized finishing, I use Drybrush. I can use Drybrush. When I want also the finishing of a stone, I use Drybrush. To smooth the Drybrush, you can use a glaze to make it look less chalkiness. Also, I use wash in a lot of different ways. You have to be very careful when you use washes on big flat surfaces or on brick surfaces, because the wash tend to dip down. So there are tricks like leaving the miniature horizontal if you want to avoid that it's dripping down, for example. But I use wash to help me to have a good resolution of the miniature. I use wash, for example, here when I have something that have a lot of texture and I just want to show the texture. In that case, for example, on the Cossus Arcanium, this handle was done with a wash on red, and then you do some highlights. So of course the wash, I will never recommend to finish with a wash. After the wash you should do some cleanup, a special cleanup here on the gold. After the wash I went back with Auric Armor Gold and with Very Passion. You pinpoint each of these feathers here, and then with silver you do the last highlight. And when you want to do highlights, you can use edge highlighting as we do here, or you can use blend when the surfaces are not that sharp. When the surfaces are smooth, like the skin, it's better to use a little bit of blending or glazes. Okay, so this is all what I want to share. I hope this is helping you because I think one of the most important things is to understand when you want to use one technique or the other, and sometimes these are overlooked. And the people that we used to have experience, we don't explain this too much. We use all these techniques, but for me one of the key important points was to understand when I should use one technique and when I should use the other. And if you have questions and you want to know in different cases what is the best technique I will recommend, you always can drop me a message here in the video, or you can drop me a message in my Facebook group, and I will be very happy to answer, to help you, and to give my advice on how I will paint the miniature. That's all for now. I hope you find this weekly painting useful. This time I wanted to go a little bit more theoretical, but I think this is helpful and can help you to understand when I use each technique. That's all for now. Please leave your comment below, leave your question if you have any, share, like if you have liked it. And if you want to support my channel, you can support me also in Patreon. That's all for now. As usual, thanks a lot for watching, and see you again later. Bye!